In 2015, developed by From Software and published by Sony Computer Entertainment originally for the Sony PlayStation 4, was that of BloodBorne. The game was critically praised by both critics and gamers for the unique aspects of the premise with the game, as well as the setting of Yoham, being inspired by British and American authors Bram Stoker and H.P. Lovecraft. Due to the highly complex and in-depth lore of the game was known for being notoriously difficult, and a good amount of the player base never proceeded through the game enough to even learn about the various details of the story or lore associated with it. Within the Old Hunters, the premise of it were that the Hunter's Nightmare was the place where all hunters whom had gone mad during the hunt and were in the nightmare to essentially die. Because the premise of BloodBorne had hunters whom were loyal and those who went mad due to the power that they had obtained through the hunt on what they had to do to simply survive. Through the course of the Hunter's Nightmare, Simon the Harrowed, a non-player character, mentions that the nightmare was a physically tangible result of all the misdeeds and unfavorable actions that they've done collectively as hunters. That all hunters would theoretically go mad given enough time, and it's the ultimate and unavoidable fate of any hunter, regardless of their own personal beliefs of being a hunter, and the fact that the hunter's nightmare and the ultimate cause of that nightmare is unknown, and to discover the cause of it to be important enough to know, and once to know the cause of the hunter's nightmare, they could theoretically escape it. A theory had it that the Orphan of Kos, or as Mikolash mentioned, Cosm, was one of the prime reasons why the nightmare existed, being as the final boss of the hunter's nightmare had something to do with this fact. As the player proceeded through the nightmare, Simon mentioned about an underlying cause of the madness, and that the truth should be exposed, if only to end the torment of those within it, and to possibly even as well prevent it from affecting others in the future. When the player finally progressed through the nightmare enough to the final area of the coast of the fishing village, is literally born right in front of the player, whom stumbles across the carcass of a dead alien creature, as it was implied that the creature died at sea, which was essentially the Kos parasite. As the orphan lets out a baby's cry and an old man's groan at the same time, and stares at the blood moon in the distance, visible throughout the entire nightmare, considered to be that of the false god within the lore of the story. Once Kos is dead, it has the usual prey slaughter notification for the player to read and be notified about, but a small wisp of black smoke is seen emitting from the alien carcass, and once the player slashes or attacks the dead creature, an extra nightmare slain is depicted for the player to notice. A rare occurrence, it's only depicted within the game a few times, as according to Simon and lore within the game, once the player leaves the hunter's nightmare, it ceases to exist because the underlying cause of the nightmare is dead. Either the alien creature or the quote-unquote orphan were the causes of the nightmare. Internet speculation had it that when the alien creature fell to the planet where BloodBorne took place in, the very presence of the creature caused bizarre phenomena to occur. In the fishing hamlet, parasites affected the villagers, and the legend of Kos soon appeared. As soon as the church heard of these rumors, they decided to use or control the phenomena. When the player first entered the village, upon certain circumstances they received the skull, in which showed clear signs of being experimented on by the church, as it was a sign that the power of Kos was something that people or political or even religious organizations desired. An alien, a false god even, were very alluring for possible control or manipulation. Even with the death of the orphan is known to the player, a cutscene explained that the orphan had returned to the sea from whence they had come, as it was something beyond their understanding, as final theories had it that the Great Ones in terms of details of these beings were intentionally left vague, so there is no absolute theories as to what Mother Kos was, nor her orphaned offspring. Sometimes a character could be forgotten because not everyone had the patience nor the will to experience the full story to its ultimate conclusion.